News headlines flashed across screens worldwide. Philippines breaks Chinese blockade, tense standoff at Second Thomas Shoal. In the pre-dawn light of September 5, 2025, the South China Sea was a theater of immense tension. Two small Philippine supply boats, May 1 and 2, sliced through calm waters, carrying vital supplies for Marines on the BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting warship and symbol of Philippine sovereignty. Surrounding them, a wall of Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia ships loomed on the horizon. Beijing had issued stern warnings, vowing to stop what it called an illegal intrusion. The Filipino crews pressed on, dwarfed by the steel giants shadowing their every move. The Philippine Coast Guard vessel, BRP Cabra, sailed nearby, outnumbered but vigilant. Every radio transmission was monitored, every movement scrutinized. The world watched, wondering if this day would see violence, or if diplomacy would prevail. This was not just a delivery run, it was a deliberate act of defiance, a test of wills on the open ocean. The Filipino sailors, with nerves of steel, maintained their course, locked on the silhouette of the Sierra Madre. The Chinese ships closed in, their intentions unclear. Would they ram the smaller boats? Would they unleash water cannons again? The tension was palpable, a silent standoff where the slightest miscalculation could ignite a conflict. The fate of a tiny outpost held global implications. The world held its breath. The standoff at Second Thomas Shoal was about to reach a new chapter. Against all odds, the mission succeeded. The Philippine supply boats reached the BRP Sierra Madre just after sunrise, shadowed by Chinese vessels and buzzing drones. This time there were no water cannons, no ramming, just tense observation. Filipino crews worked quickly, transferring food, water and medicine to the Marines aboard the decaying warship. The operation was completed in under 2 hours, a testament to careful planning and a new strategy. The BRP Cabra was joined by the larger BRP Gregorio del Pilar, providing a stronger escort. Journalists aboard the escort vessel broadcast the mission live, putting a global spotlight on China's actions. The presence of international media acted as a deterrent, turning the remote shoal into a global stage. For the Marines, the supplies were a lifeline and a message. They had not been forgotten. The successful resupply was a morale victory for the Philippines, reinforcing their claim in the West Philippine Sea. As the boats pulled away, a sense of cautious triumph filled the air. The Chinese fleet watched in silence. The standoff was over for now, but the dispute remained unresolved. The BRP Sierra Madre is a relic, a rusting tank landing ship intentionally grounded in 1999 to serve as a permanent outpost on Second Thomas Shoal. Decades of sun and salt have left it crumbling, but a small contingent of Philippine Marines continues their lonely vigil. Their mission to physically occupy the shoal and assert the Philippines' sovereign rights. Isolated and living in harsh conditions, their presence is a statement. This shoal is part of the Philippines. The strategic importance is clear. Second Thomas Shoal lies well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, as affirmed by the 2016 Hague Tribunal. China rejects the ruling, calling it null and void, and continues to claim the shoal. The Sierra Madre has become the flashpoint of this legal and territorial battle. For the Philippines, it's a symbol of sovereignty and adherence to international law. For China, it's an illegal obstruction. Each resupply mission is about more than logistics. It's about sovereignty. Every successful run reinforces the Philippine claim. Every Chinese attempt to block it is an effort to erode that claim. The rusting sentinel stands as a silent, defiant challenge to a superpower's ambitions. The world's eyes remain fixed on this lonely outpost. The peace of the September 5th mission was a stark contrast to the violence of June 2024. Then a routine resupply devolved into chaos. Chinese Coast Guard personnel armed with knives and axes boarded Philippine boats, injuring sailors and damaging vessels. It was a shocking escalation following months of water cannon attacks and dangerous maneuvers. The international community reacted with alarm. The US and other allies condemned China's actions. The June violence brought the two nations to the brink, raising fears of wider conflict. Compared to that chaos, the September operation felt like a different world. The absence of water cannons and weapons was a welcome de-escalation. Chinese ships limited themselves to shadowing and monitoring. This shift was likely due to international condemnation and the Philippines' strategy of live media coverage. The calm was fragile, but it was a welcome reprieve. The world hoped it would last. After the violent June 2024 clash, Manila and Beijing negotiated a non-aggression pact for resupply missions. The agreement was not a resolution, but a practical arrangement to prevent further violence. The Philippines agreed to notify China in advance and limit missions to humanitarian supplies, no construction materials. In return, China tacitly allowed resupply missions, refraining from water cannons and ramming, as long as terms were met. The pact was a fragile truce tested by hardliners on both sides. Some in the Philippines saw it as a concession, some in China saw it as weakness. Minor standoffs continued, with each side accusing the other of violations. The September 5th mission was another test of this fragile understanding. The pact held, for now, but the risk of escalation remains ever present. After the resupply, Manila and Beijing resumed their war of words. Philippine officials framed the mission as a legitimate exercise of sovereign rights, anchored in the 2016 Hague ruling. The Department of Foreign Affairs called on China to respect the ruling and cease interference. China's response was swift. It rejected the arbitral award, reiterated its claims, and demanded the removal of the Sierra Madre. The fundamental clash is clear. The Philippines stands on international law, China on historical claim and power. Both sides aim their statements at a global audience, Manila seeking support for a rules-based order, Beijing projecting strength. The Sierra Madre is ground zero for this intractable dispute. Every action is a message to the world. The legal battle is far from over. The standoff continues, with each side refusing to back down. The world watches, waiting for the next move. The successful resupply drew swift international support. The United States reaffirmed its defense commitments, warning Beijing that an armed attack on Philippine forces would invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty. Australia, Japan, and European nations echoed support, emphasizing international law and freedom of navigation. This chorus of voices is central to the Philippines' strategy, isolating China diplomatically. Support is not just verbal. Joint military exercises and intelligence sharing have increased. US and Australian surveillance aircraft provide critical support during tense missions. The alliance network is a direct response to China's assertiveness, fostering a sense of shared purpose. For the Philippines, this backing is invaluable, a counterbalance to China's might. It transforms a bilateral dispute into a broader test of the international system. Filipino sailors on the front lines know they are not alone. The world is watching and ready to respond. The stakes are higher than ever. The alliance stands firm. The tensions at Second Thomas Shoal have global economic implications. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade. 1/3 of maritime commerce passes through these waters. Any conflict here could disrupt supply chains, spike shipping costs, and fuel global inflation. The region is also rich in oil and gas, resources the Philippines cannot access due to Chinese patrols. Filipino fishermen are driven from their traditional grounds, threatening livelihoods and food security. The constant threat of conflict deters investment and undermines regional stability. The standoff is not just a local squabble, it's a threat to the global trading system. Economic shockwaves would be felt worldwide. The world's prosperity is tied to peace in these waters. The cost of conflict would be catastrophic. The saga of the BRP Sierra Madre is more than a territorial dispute, it's a test of the international order. At stake is whether rules and treaties will prevail, or if might will make right. The Philippines and its allies fight for a system where all nations' rights are respected. China's actions challenge that system, favoring power over law. If China succeeds, it sets a dangerous precedent for the world. The risk of escalation is real. Any miscalculation could draw in the United States and trigger a wider conflict. The future of global governance hangs in the balance. The September 5th resupply was a small victory for the rules-based order. But the challenge is far from over. Each mission is another test. The Marines' lonely vigil is a stand for sovereignty, law, and a world where rules matter. The world is watching, and the stakes could not be higher.